Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Joe Concha Show.
Joe Concha.
Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
Yeah, boy. Tuesday night, New York City. It's 3 degrees out. All right, it's not 3. It feels like 3. This black ice is annoying. I'm out there finally. I got my little snow blower, my little Toro. All right. Sunday, I conquered that snow like the Germans conquered France. No resistance whatsoever. Okay. And then another little snowstorm comes on, overnight storm, whatever you want to call it, little squall. And then everything melts only for it to freeze back over again. My driveway is a friggin' ice rink, and there's literally nothing I can do about it. I put salt on it. This ice is really like ice on steroids. You put, the salt on it, it doesn't melt. That's how cold it is out right now. But hey, I've grown up here my whole life. We could deal with this too. But man, that Farmer's Almanac knows what the hell it's talking about. It said back in October this was going to be a very cold and very snowy winter. The snow has been a little above average, but the cold, that has certainly delivered. And apparently this weekend on Sunday, we were looking at a monster storm. Now, it's 5 days out. I get it. Weathermen are paid to get it wrong. But this thing looks pretty ominous, at least right now. Hopefully that's not the case. I'm supposed to be in Boca Raton on Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, I got this little speech I got to do, but I work a little vacation around it with the wife, leaving the kids at home. Don't tell Dyfus, all right? They can take care of themselves, all right? It's about time the 12 and 10-year-olds learn how to get themselves to school, feed themselves, and put themselves to bed. All right, we're going to have somebody here looking after them. But still, it felt good to say, even for a second. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in to the Joe Concha Show. We got so much to talk about tonight. I mean, I might as well just be repetitive on that. There's always something to talk about during the Trump era and the Democrats losing their mind era. And I'm going to start off with Tim Walz, the goofy governor of Minnesota, which seems to be leading our show every night, what's going on in Minneapolis, which is now the epicenter of the insane. Anyway, here's Walz just a couple of weeks ago making another bold prediction. This guy is like Jimmy the Greek meets Nostradamus, all right, as far as his ability to predict the future. But here he is on ice and his prediction that, you know what, eventually they're going to start storming churches, which is a very bad thing. This is cut number 3. Go.
I would fully expect, and we are preparing for, an influx of more agents, more of the very visible public theatrics of the raids, of the harassments.
Oh.
And you got faith leaders here. I would not put it past this administration to target midnight mass services amongst folks going to worship, because that's who they are.
Well, Tim got it right. Yes, there was the storming of churches. Problem is, it wasn't done by ICE. It was done by his core group of supporters, Antifa-loving, far-left liberals, led by, of all people, not, Norman Schwarzkopf, not General Eisenhower. Oh, no. This was led by Don Lemon himself. Yes, he's gone from CNN to trying to break up ICE. And, boy, talk about a guy, as I said last night, I mean, this guy has a bank account that looks like a phone number if you include the area code. That's how many millions CNN stupidly paid him to have a last place show. He eventually gets fired, and now, in a desperate need for a look at me moment, please pay attention to me. I'm Don friggin' Lemon. He goes to Minnesota and just stumbles upon this group that, in a couple of minutes, just happens to be planning on storming this church. So in the name of journalism, he interviews the head of the group that ended up doing this, where they got in the faces of these poor parishioners. They're just there on a Sunday with their kids, just, studying the Bible, learning from its teachings, obviously honoring and embracing Jesus Christ in their lives, the things you do when you go to church, one of the most peaceful things, relaxing things you could do, and you come out feeling like a better person. And these maniacs go in and start screaming at them that they're the problem because of their white privilege, and they should be standing with them against ICE or something, and therefore they're the problem. Well, here's Don Lemon now because he's got a whole bowl of trouble coming his way. He's going to be and is absolutely charged with what's called the Flag Act, which means you are not allowed to go in any place of worship and disrupt. Don Lemon thought he had the First Amendment on his side, but the Flag Act says, no, you can't do that on private property, and certainly not in places of worship. Also, ironically enough, the biggest race baiter this side of Joy Reid and Sonny Hostin, Don Lemon, may be charged with the KKK Act as well, which can be attached to the Flag Act. The Biden administration, the AutoPen administration, did this very thing as well. So there is precedent. And look, he wants to be the victim. He probably desperately wants to be arrested because then he could roll camera and use the excuse that he always uses. Not that he is a horrible journalist / activist. Let's face it, he's an activist. But he's only targeted, Don Lemon is, because apparently he's a gay black man. He's like Jussie Smollett, but different. And this is cut number 4. Go.
I'm only being targeted because I'm a gay black man.
Yep, there he is. Yep, that's it. That's the only reason. Well, maybe breaking the law on several levels as well. And it's funny. There are these random videos. I wish I could apply a name to this person. I'll just say that he's a very large black man. All right, the type of person that Don Lemon is the opposite of in terms of this is true testosterone. This is the kind of guy you absolutely want to watch a game with and have a beer with. This is cut number 5. This video went completely viral on social media to the tune of millions. And this gentleman makes a very good point about Don Lemon. If he were to try to do this to a black church, as far as storming a black church, and exactly what would happen. This is cut number 5. Go.
Yeah, Don Lemon knew better than to go to a black church. He would have never tried that. It would have been a totally different scenario that would have happened. Totally different outcome.
I like the music.
Because we don't play about stuff like that. You're not going to come in and you think he would have got an interview? Are you kidding me? He wouldn't have got past the aunties at the front. They would have shut that down. He's not even getting in through the front door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't play that. In the name of Jesus, he wouldn't have got in. You're talking about dudes reformed from the streets, giving the testimony aunties never gave up on them. You're going to assert yourself into that situation, bro. I'm scared to have my phone on ring when I'm in church.
It's true.
It's just a different atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even want to say what would have happened that day, but a lot of righteous indignation would have went down. We would have righteously indignated that whole situation, shut it all down.
I love this.
You think he's going to lean into a black pastor? He's going to lean in like that, tell him, hey, don't touch me, and lean in on him with his auntie watching in the front row? You think he's going to do that? Bro, I would pay pay-per-view. I would pay to see that.
Pay-per-view?
Don Lemon knew better. He would have never done that, bro.
That's right. All right, Kevin, I think we get the point. Pay-per-view. I'd take the kids' college fund and pay for that because I have a feeling he wouldn't just get past the aunties. He'd probably be beaten to a pulp by the aunties. You don't go into any church and do that. And you know, Lemon is saying that, again, this is the whole thing. He is such a liar. I mean, a prolific liar. And in this case, he's completely dead to rights as far as there is tape literally by him handing out coffee and donuts to this anti-ICE group before the church shooting. You know, like giving them like the energy to go in there. He knew exactly what was going to happen. He claims he didn't know what was going on or who this group was. Look, I'll throw it out there. He obviously was contacted by this anti-ICE organization while he was in New York, was told to come to Minneapolis, said, show up at this time, at this place, and come with us and film the whole thing. And he was dumb enough to do it without reading the law and thinking he had a First Amendment right to do it, and obviously he did not. Anyway, here's Don Lemon bragging about handing out coffee and donuts. Again, the guy is worth tens of millions of dollars, so thanks for the sacrifice. But again, you knew these people, and you knew exactly what they were going to do. And this, let's say if this was a court of law, Exhibit A as far as him not knowing what was going to happen. Yeah, this kind of contradicts that. This is cut number 6. Go.
Lemon is on the front lines right now.
Yeah.
Follow Don Lemon. He ain't on CNN no more, so he right here in the front line.
Independent, yeah.
Tell him to come get some coffee.
Hey, Don Lemon got some coffee for y'all.
Oh.
And donuts.
And donuts. And he ain't talking about police.
You want some coffee?
You want some coffee? Don Lemon. I trust Don Lemon coffee.
You want some
He
coffee?
ain't finna poison you. Get that
I
coffee
love some
from him.
coffee. Thank you, Don.
Okay,
Great
good
to see you
job.
here. Thank
Look at
you.
Derek.
Perfect.
Yeah, because every objective journalist out there, Cronkite, Ted Koppel, Brinkley, Mudd, yeah, they all handed out coffee and donuts to rioters before they stormed places like churches. That's totally and completely objective journalism on Don Lemon's part. Meanwhile, his former network, CNN, fired Don Lemon, and you think, well, maybe they've changed. Maybe the culture around there is different, right? Then again, they took back Jeffrey Toobin, who, got the shaft, pun intended, after pleasuring himself on a Zoom call with female employees on the other end, not knowing that the camera was on. Weird time to pick to kind of choke the bishop, but that's what Jeff Toobin did. And sure enough, yeah, he was off the air for a while, but he was fully paid while he was suspended. Then they bought the guy back, which is really remarkable. Just show your hands, Jeff, when you're on the air. That's all I ask. You could go blind by doing that. I don't know if you ever heard, but they took back Toobin. They took back Stelter. Brian Stelter, I guess, like, people compare him to me, which that's like comparing like Joe Montana to, let me think. Who was like the worst quarterback like ever to play for like the Giants or the Jets? Well, Justin Fields wasn't all that good if I use a modern example, but you get the point. Like, please, don't put me in the same sentence as a Brian Stelter. That's not good. But they took back Stelter after they fired him as well. So nothing has changed over at CNN. And now here's CNN covering for the mob that stormed the church. Like, you think, oh, this is indefensible. Well, not at CNN. This is cut number 7. Go.
The activists on the street right now, they feel a kind of helplessness, right? That's how you end up bullying your way into a church. And you've been in that chair. You've been the person who was the activist and felt like lawmakers weren't doing enough. Do you understand their frustration?
So,
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Oh, so their frustration allows them to break the law? That's okay? All right, maybe we can attempt to run over some ICE agents while we're at it. Maybe like last week where 3 illegals decided to try to kill an ICE agent by trying to beat him with a snow shovel, which you say, well, it's just a shovel, Joe. Yeah, a snow shovel? All right. Think Al Capone bat head, except infinitely worse with a metal snow shovel. And that's what happened. And then the ICE agent defends himself because he could be killed, shoots the guy in the leg, and then we got to read headlines like in the New York Times, which said, ICE agent shoots immigrant 1 week after Renee Good was killed by ICE agent, leaving out the illegal part about the immigrant, leaving out the fact that the immigrant was literally trying to kill the ICE agent. No, that's the type of media coverage that is happening around this. And that's what Donald Trump and Republicans have to deal with now at this point. ICE is cleaning up streets. We've had the lowest murder rate in terms of drop from one year to another in this country's history. That's what happened in 2025. And the work that ICE is doing obviously has a lot to do with that. And yet the media does not concentrate on what is the story, which is, who did ICE arrest today? Oh, really? A man who was a child molester, a man who murdered a child or a woman, or just a regular, guy, or obviously was involved in sex trafficking or raped a woman, so on. That should be the story. Like, this is a great job by ICE. This is who they're expelling from the country. This is how your community is becoming safer. That should be the story. Instead, the story is ICE bad and protesters good. And that, my friends, is a whole bowl of wrong. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the appropriately named Joe Concha Show. Back with so much more, including Tim Brando, Fox Sports. We're going to talk about a lot of things, including Indiana. They're the football national champions. They used to have the worst record of all time in college football just 2 years ago. And now miracles happened. And the quarterback, I'm sorry, is not coming to the Jets. Say hello to Las Vegas, Mendoza. He's going there. And, well, what happens in Vegas won't stay in Vegas. Not with that quarterback. One of the great performances I've ever seen. We'll talk to Tim Brando about that, and just in general, the culture of sports changing in terms of Donald Trump and his presidency, and suddenly men playing against women in sports anymore. That is something that is no longer embraced. In fact, it is absolutely loathed. That's Tim Brando, and he's coming up soon on 77 WABC.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I got it. Look, I know they're not a sponsor, but I got to share what I did recently as far as a purchase that I think is the greatest purchase ever. So I travel a lot more these days. People actually hire me to do speeches. Like, hey, what are you doing tonight? I'm going to go listen to Joe Concha speak. There's got to be something better to do with your time. I mean, I did a speech in Palm Beach. 1,000 people showed up on a Monday night. I'm like, oh, that's great. Who else is speaking here? Trump? Like 1,000 people on a Monday came to see little old me. I found that to be kind of funny. So there's more demand for this apparently, and that's awesome. We have a lot of fun doing it, but I can't stand waiting in line. You know, I got pre-TSA, and it seems like everybody got pre-TSA, so it's almost like Easy Pass. Like, it's faster, I guess, but when so many people get the same kind of advantage, then it's no longer an advantage to a certain extent. So then I heard about this Clear thing, where apparently they take you right up to the front of the line at security, and apparently I've lived it. And then when I heard about it at the time, this is what I was told, and I couldn't believe it. And they just walk you right in, and your passport is already stored, or your real ID is already stored on the Clear app. So then when you walk up to this screen, this Clear screen, like a kiosk, it knows it's you, and then you don't have to show ID for going through security. Like, it's already like, all right, you're done. All right, and then you basically walk right through security. You don't have to take anything out. Obviously, shoes off. That's a rule for everybody, but no laptops out. You don't have to do 1,000 things. Like, you are in the clear, literally. And I flew last week to Vegas to visit a friend, a little reunion of sorts, and I timed it. It took me 4 minutes to get through security at Newark Airport. I mean, that's insane. I'm writing my wife. I'm like, this has got to be a record. I have texts. I can prove this. And it is awesome. But I tried to go to New Jersey Division of Motor Vehicles just to get my real ID, just in case, you don't know what could happen, especially in Vegas. But what happens if I lose my passport somehow? What happens if my bags get lost and my passport's lost? Whatever. 1,000 things can happen. Well, I go to DMV, and of course the systems are down, whatever that means, and I couldn't get my real ID. But in the end, I get why we need real ID. I get why you need a passport, obviously, to get on a plane. We have to vet people, especially after 9/11. I understand that's going to be 26 years ago come this September. But at the same time, there's always bad actors out there. And after what happened, we have to be still diligent to this day. So I don't mind all the pat downs and all the things you have to do when you do go through security and maybe there's something that's questionable. But you have Democrats these days talking about how there should not be voter ID needed when you want to vote. Why not? I remember Kamala Harris once said that, well, it's because if you live in a rural part of the country, there might not be a Kinko's around where you could actually make a copy of your ID, and therefore it's hard to bring your ID to the voting booth. What? You have a driver's license. I would think if you live in rural America, there's no subway around or anything like that. You're not taking your Segway or your bike to go to the store. You probably have a car, and therefore you're driving, right? And, okay, let's say you're in the inner city and you don't need a car, can't afford a car. Fine. One of the easiest things in the world seems these days, when the systems are up, of course, unlike that one day I picked to go to DMV in New Jersey, is to get an ID of some kind that shows you who you are, who you are. Yet Democrats don't want this, and the explanation is clear, and it's easy to come to a conclusion on this one. And Donald Trump, the president, had something to say about this today as well, and he is exactly right in his analysis, and probably 85% of Americans, including many Democrats, agree with him. This is cut number 11. Go.
Voter ID. You go to a grocery store, you have to give ID. You go to a gas station, you give ID. But for voting, they want no voter ID. That's only for one reason, because they cheat. We would pass that in 15 minutes. If you don't get it, you'll never pass that. You'll never talk about mail-in ballots. Mail-in ballots make it automatically corrupt. If you have mail-in ballots, automatically it's correct. Even Jimmy Carter, they had the Carter Commission after he got out of office, and he had a group of very distinguished people, Democrats and Republicans, and they passed They recommended things take place. It was a long time ago. And they said about mail-in ballots, if there is mail-in ballots, there will definitely be corruption because, they pass through too many hands.
He's exactly right about this. It's just so obvious that, I think this would be the easiest thing to do, okay? You want early voting. We don't need 8 weeks of early voting. We don't need 24/7 drive-through early voting. That moron out in California who very well may be their next governor, you think Newsom's bad, Eric Swalwell of Fang Fang, commie spy, slept with guy, Eric Swalwell, right? That guy wants to do mailing. I'm sorry, not even mailing. He wants to do voting by phone. By phone. So how does anybody know who's on the other end? You think mail-in can be corrupt? I'm pretty sure voting by phone will be infinitely corrupt. So that's what Democrats want. The easier it is to vote, the easier it is to have people vote multiple times or to have those in the country illegally vote. I mean, this is a pretty obvious thing here, and Trump's exactly right. So I say in the end, this would be the Concha solution, which I think is a pretty common sense one. All right, we don't need 8 weeks, as I said. You want to tell me 3 weeks of early voting? Okay, I'll compromise on that. Again, I got to live in the real world, so not every Democrat's going to sign up for something like this. So I'll meet you at 3 weeks. I think 21 days to do something that's a fairly easy thing to do, even in 2024, in an election where so many people voted as far as the presidency, and even New Jersey here, 2025, with the governor's race. I walked in and out in 5 minutes. I voted early both times. It was like noon, and even though we had high voter turnout in both cases, it wasn't hard. Right, so you could find the time. If you could find the time to be on your phone for 3 hours, right, playing Wordle or just watching inane TikTok videos, I'm pretty sure you could still do those things while you're waiting online to vote and then eventually get to the voting booth and vote. 3 weeks is more than enough time. Also, mail-in, okay. If you're a veteran, you're out of state, of course you could do that. If you're older and just can't get to a voting machine because maybe you have some physical ailments or whatever, fine. No problem with that. All right. But we cannot allow everybody just to mail in vote because they feel they want to. By the way, isn't that just as much of a pain in the butt than actually going to a voting location? Because you still have to get to, the post office or find a mailbox. So in the time it takes you to find a mailbox, I'm pretty sure if you wanted to early vote and you just went to your local voting place, which is probably only a couple minutes away as well, that is probably about the same thing. So again, I don't understand why mail-in voting is even needed outside of the two examples that I just gave as far as veterans or if you're disabled in any way, shape, or form. Fine. And that should be it. I think Republicans, as far as there should be one day to vote and that's it. Look, there are extenuating circumstances. I get it. I know I'm not a rhino, because I believe in that in theory and principle. I don't think once you allow all this early voting and all these other things, you can't go from one extreme to the other. Find that middle. And this is a little more tilted to the right middle than anything else, but I think that's the way to go. And I think we would see a lot less corruption. And oh, by the way, it cannot take so many days and weeks like it does in California to determine a winner of like a congressional race, for example. Why? It's such a finite, small district area. Why does it take 6 weeks to find a winner in places like California? Florida, boom. They got results instantly. Ohio, same thing. Couple hours after the ballot, the voting places close, right? Voting locations, we always know who wins Florida and Ohio pretty quickly. Georgia, same thing now, right? Oh, yeah, they're all run by red governors. Those are red states at this point. Remember when Ohio wasn't a red state? It was like the purple state that decided everything. The bellwether, Bush-Kerry, 2004, all came down to Ohio. Yeah, those days are long gone. In Florida, same thing, 2000. Purple state, could go either way. That's definitely a red state as well. Republicans are gaining more red states than Democrats are gaining blue states. And now even the so-called blue wall has lost 2 of the last 3 elections. You take out COVID and then basically won the last 2 elections. So they lose those. You tell me what red states Democrats can gain back. Because I could list several states that Republicans can take even on top of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Minnesota, that was only a 4-point state in 2024. Just 4 points. That's it. New Mexico, New Jersey, they're on the precipice as well. So I look at the blue team and I say, all right, what red states can they take back? I don't know, Nevada and 6 whole electoral votes, which is kind of corrupt also, Nevada. Not the most reliable people there, too, probably. Anyway, here's Dana White, and here is he, obviously a big Trump supporter, UFC. That's a tough guy right there, Dana White. You got a name like Dana, you think like, all right, this guy's a pushover. You think like Betty White. Dana White would not want to run into him in an alley when he is angry. Here he is on voter ID as well, cut number 10.
Well, if you saw the election, the entire country relates with Trump right now. Won all the swing states. The only states she won were the ones that you didn't need ID to vote in. It would have been interesting if you needed ID, how that would have played out too. I think that I think the whole country, it feels like somebody hit the reset button. Everything feels and
yeah, it's the reset button at this point. I think more and more people. You look at every poll, 85% of people say you should have an ID that you should have to present when you're voting. That means a lot of Democrats agree with that as well, except for Democrat lawmakers. They will try to go along with this absolute farce for as long as they possibly can, because they know that if more elections are legitimate and run on the up and up, the less chance they have of gaining power or retaining power. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. Back with Tim Brando, Fox Sports, in just a moment on 77 WABC.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
Back, everybody. Let's bring in Tim Brando of Fox Sports. He is now the voice of college basketball, I believe, and college football as well. A hardest working man in sports, travels to, you always get like the colder weather games, I feel like, Tim, and no exception, I guess, your trip to UConn, right?
Yeah, and then the issue will be this blast of Arctic air is going to be hitting lovely Shreveport, Louisiana, the metropolis that is my home, and I might be stuck in Connecticut for quite a while.
Wow! Don't
take a little while for me to get back.
Don't let ESPN re-sign you. We can't have that. That would be bad.
No.
So stay away from stores at all costs. Shame you were in sunnier pastures like Miami last night. Hard Rock Stadium, just another classic down there between two teams. I don't think if you told me in the beginning of the season that Miami would be meeting Indiana, ACC, I guess, versus Big Ten, I would have maybe thought, okay, Ohio State versus, I don't know, Clemson, but I never would have pictured this, but it went right down to the wire, and just an incredible feat by the University of Indiana, where you always think Bobby Knight, you always think of college basketball. Now it is the capital of college football. Just a remarkable story. I'll let you fill in the blanks here as far as just why we should appreciate this so much.
Well, yeah, because it represents in a lot of ways, Joe, a paradigm shift in all of college football. Things have changed. Okay, without this kind of shift, without NIL and transfer portal circumstances that have been implemented in the last couple of years, this would have never happened.
Yeah,
there was a period there during the BCS period when we had two teams, the early portion of the college football playoff with just 4 teams, that if you asked me in June or July who the 4 teams would be playing in the playoff, I could tell you routinely the same names. Okay, Ohio State, some collection of Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, LSU, and I might throw in an Alabama, and I would be right at least 3 out of 4 times. Okay, I'd maybe miss on one. Okay,
yep.
Maybe Michigan would slip in there instead of Ohio State or some other Big Ten team. I mean, but now what has happened through the portal and with NIL, and yeah, there's some criticism with it. A lot of people my age and older have issues about players being paid any kind of money. They just have to understand that times have changed. But through that, it's given schools like Indiana, which was the losingest program in the history of Division I college football. Okay, no team at the D1 level had more losses in their history than Indiana. It's given them a chance to knock down and and beat teams like Ohio State, Alabama, and Oregon by an average of 34 points before getting a competitive game by a team like Miami, which was on the borderline of not even getting in the field. You know, they were an at-large team that only really sort of snuck in because the committee couldn't allow Alabama to get in with 3 losses and not have Miami, who only had a couple of losses in the tournament field of 12. So that just should tell you where we are in the college game today. And I think it's wonderful for the sport. I think it's great that more of the country can be connected. For a period there when the SEC was dominating, and I was working at CBS during that period, and we had 7 consecutive championships that were played with SEC teams in it, and you had 4 different SEC teams winning during that span, and a couple of them multiple times. Florida won twice, LSU won, Alabama won, Georgia won. I mean, we're talking multiple teams in that span of time. That was a level of dominance that we had not seen in the college game. But you were also cutting off most of the country, okay? Most of the country really didn't care about what was going on if it was simply a Rust Belt sport. And now we've got teams out west that are part of the Big Ten, like Oregon, like Washington, that can compete at this very high level. And then you've got teams in the ACC and now Indiana. I mean, of all places, a school in the Big Ten that has been dormant for such a long period of time. They had not been in a bowl game and won it since Bill Mallory was coaching in 1991.
Oh God!
And I thought initially, Joe, I thought initially about my old friend and my original partner on College Game Day.
Of course, so
when we started ESPN. The College Game Day show in 1987, Lee Corso.
Yeah.
He got the very first bowl win in the history of that school in 1979. I was already married for a year in 1979. So, and I talked to him. He's ecstatic. I mean, he's absolutely ecstatic about what happened. And his 10-year run was pretty successful. And he was going up against Bo and Woody and those guys. And it was hard, but he was able to at least compete, but never think about winning a championship. That never crossed anyone's mind, even about some of his best teams. So it is amazing to think of what's happened, and I do think that Curt Cignetti has done, and I'm not just saying in college football, I'm saying in sports, the greatest coaching job in a 2-year span that anyone that ever put a whistle around his neck has ever done.
Wow.
End of story.
Those are big words. You know, people always think of like Bill Parcells here locally when he came to the Giants, inherited a horrible team, and then got them to a Super Bowl in about 5 years. They got them to the playoffs in, I think, 2 or 3. But to win a championship, to go 16-0. Only one other team has gone 16-0 in college football history. I saw this this morning just randomly. Yale, back in the 1800s. So it is incredible. And I want to get your thought on this because I just looked up the numbers. Ohio State and Notre Dame played for the national championship a year ago, right? Now, those are 2 huge names. Notre Dame, obviously a national team if there ever was one in college football. That drew about 22 million viewers to ESPN and ABC. Last night, Indiana-Miami, which some people said, oh, no, there's no SEC school in here.
Yeah,
Indiana, that's not a name brand as far as college football. Miami, yeah, they were big back in the 90s and the 80s. You know, they're going to redraw again. They outdrew Ohio State and Notre Dame. They drew 24 million viewers. So by about 2 million more viewers, people tuned in to see this Cinderella story. So this is only a good thing for college football to have different teams in here, to your point.
It is. And by the way, those numbers are still much lower than they really ought to be, okay?
Yeah.
We need to fix the calendar in college football and reclaim New Year's Day as college football's day. And in order to do that, you got to move week 0, which is what they call the first week of the college football season. You got to move it back from, say, August 24th, where it was this past year, to August 10th.
Oof.
And have the regular season end Thanksgiving weekend, where it normally ends.
Yeah.
And then let's go and start this playoff and play these games through the month of December. And I don't want to hear presidents and chancellors talking about, well, you know, the student athlete in my fanny. I mean, these are guys that are now getting paid, and they're getting paid well, and most of them are taking classes online.
Oh,
Okay,
can I just inject something real quick, Tim? Because I found this fascinating. Carson Beck was asked about this, like being a student athlete, and were you able to get to classes? He said, "I graduated 2 years ago from Georgia."
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, you had a combination with this particular class of seniors. You had a combination of an extra year given by the NCAA for COVID, and then you had the graduation thing that has happened, and then you got waivers for a variety of reasons if you were injured or something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. But my point is this. You don't want a television contract with just one entity. You want a television contract with several, just like the Shield the NFL does. And you want these games being played and featured, and you want them being played at a time when the NFL is not in the middle of their wild card weekend and the divisional round. From the time the semifinals were played, and they were played on a Thursday and Friday night, a work week, a school night, why do you suppose that is? Because you don't want to play opposite NFL games. That's why they had to do it.
Oh,
and
that's so true.
Those numbers were right around 15.5 million, because they're dodging the NFL schedule. And then you play a championship on a Monday night, which the morning before, the day should be yours, right? And a lot of these college people think, Monday night.
It's all reviews of the NFL games that just played. So
exactly.
You're right about that. Man, you're making so many great points.
By the way, Joe.
Yeah.
By the way, Joe, the media can't be blamed for that. Those were two classic NFL playoff games. You're going to be talking about that all day Monday. All right.
That's so true.
We got to move it back. And before we worry about expansion to 16 teams, we need to get the calendar fixed so college football ends on New Year's Day or very close to New Year's Day, and we stay the hell away from the NFL playoffs.
I'm just trying to picture, Gainesville or LSU, Alabama hosting games on August 10th. Oh, it's going to be hot. But I hear your point. We got to go. Unfortunately, I'm being told we have to break. I wish I had an hour with Tim Brando, but that's that. But Tim, great points. Really appreciate talking to you, and hopefully you get back to Shreveport within the next calendar year.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you. He's the best. Tim Brando, Fox Sports. This is Joe Concha, 77 WABC. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, 77 WABC. It's the Joe Concha Show. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. Joe Concha. 77 WABC.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. So, today is January 20th. Of course, we know what that meant in 2025. That's when Donald Trump was sworn in as the nation's 47th president. The first guy to win non-consecutive terms since, I believe, Grover Cleveland. So you got to go back to literally 2 centuries ago to find the last time this happened. And I could go through the list as far as everything that Trump accomplished in his first year. I find this, I'll lead with this one, because I find it to be a remarkable stat. We are now seeing the longest streak in Washington, D.C. to start a year without murders in ever, since they started taking stats on these sort of things. We're at January 20th, and there has been one murder in Washington, D.C. Trust me, I went to school near there. I worked there. Impossible. You would read every day, whether it be on, in the local papers, Washington Post, of course, or the local affiliates, about not one, but multiple murders that would go on. And it's just, there are 3/4 of that city that's a bad part of the city, right? Northwest is basically the only one. K Street, the White House, all those things. Monument that is relatively safe, I guess. But that is incredible. 20 straight days in Washington, D.C. without one murder. And we all know why that is. National Guard deployed, a message sent of zero tolerance, and that's enough. So just like Trump did with the border, I get the National Guard was there, and that symbolically made a huge difference. Remember, liberals used to taunt them the way they used to taunt ICE. Get out of our city. This is like a military control, right? This is martial law. You happy now, Washingtonians? Because I'm pretty sure it must be nice to go out after a certain hour in Washington, D.C. without fearing of getting, carjacked or killed. And that's what's going on there. So I'm going to lead with that. But there were so many other things that we saw happen as well during Trump's first year. Obviously, as I mentioned, the border being essentially closed. And again, not 1 inch of the wall was added to do this. That's utterly remarkable. Again, Trump's rhetoric, We didn't need comprehensive immigration reform. We just needed a new president, just to quote Trump himself. Then we have GDP is going to be over 5% this upcoming quarter, based on almost every analyst out there, after we were told we're going to go to recession because of the tariff war. Now the tariffs are paying off and then some. As a matter of fact, let's stay on tariffs for a second, because not only do we have better trade deals, not only stock market obviously took a hit today. That's going to happen once in a while. Suddenly like an 800-point drop, which used to be like a really big deal. It's like, okay, get a little correction once in a while. You know, when you're heading towards 50,000, can't go up every day. So I heard that. I'm like, oh well, it'll recover tomorrow. That's just the way it works. Anyway, here's Trump on, this is a midterm year genius stroke, by the way, as far as what he wants to do with all those hundreds of billions of dollars that have come in as a result of his tariffs. This is cut number 14. Go.
With Kevin Hassett on that, or do you think you can do that unilaterally?
I don't think we would have to go the Congress route, but we'll find out. The reason we're even talking about it is that we have so much money coming in from tariffs that we'll be able to issue at least a $2,000 dividend and also pay down debt for the country. But we'd do a $2,000 dividend to the people of our country. Would probably set a limit of income limit where it made sense, but we will be able to make a very substantial dividend to the people of our country. I believe we can do that without Congress.
All right, so if you heard that correctly, we could be looking at, obviously, if you make millions or you're above a certain tax bracket, then fine, you don't need the $2,000 necessarily. But for the middle class, right, the working class, and obviously folks that aren't very well off, a $2,000 check just arriving in your bank account, arriving in your mailbox. Democrats could talk about affordability all they want, but when you look at gas prices in some parts of the country being well below $2 a gallon, when you look at the national average overall of being well below $3 a gallon, that is a tax break, in essence, when you were paying more than $4 under Biden, right? When it used to cost like $100 just to fill up your tank. I mean, that was insane. And now you're getting all those savings and a $2,000 check on top of that. Boy, and your 401k is looking pretty good. Even if you don't invest in individual stocks, 401k is doing quite well. When Democrats run on it, we're the ones who could fix the economy when they're the ones who broke it by voting for things like the Inflation Reduction Act, which did nothing to reduce inflation. And when they supported every Biden spending bill to put us in this mess in the first place, how could they possibly be trusted? And that's what Republicans have to run on. If you're a Republican, you say they had their chance, they screwed up the economy. Look at the way things are going now. You want more of this? Vote for us. You want the way things were under the auto pen? Vote for them. Pretty binary, simple choice to make. No question about it. Anyway, let's go through some fun clips, shall we? And this one is great because this is Michelle Obama. Again, this person was touted as a legitimate person on the Democratic side to crush all Republicans and become the next president of the United States. If you listen to her podcast, it's some of the most vapid, and quite frankly, somewhat racist stuff that you'll ever hear. Here's Michelle Obama talking about her fashion purchases, and they may be based on the color of the person that is putting together the fashion. I'm being serious about this. Cut 2, go.
If I hear of someone whose fashion that I like and I know that they're a person of color, I try to make it a point. Oh. But the clothes have to be available. I think we can all do some work to think about that balance in our wardrobes. What does our closet look like and who's in it? Who are we supporting in it? Right. And I think if you have the money to buy Chanel, then you have the money to buy everybody. Right. And so let us be mindful.
Yeah, let's be mindful of that, I guess. So if a person of color puts together a nice dress or a jacket, then Michelle Obama is going to keep that in mind before just saying, hey, I like that piece, regardless of who made the piece. I don't know. It's just, I guess we can't take her seriously as somebody who will run for president anymore because, again, this is a person who's very unhappy in her marriage, it seems, and just goes on her podcast just to complain about stuff or talk about this inane kind of topic on a daily basis, and that's a shame. Scott Jennings over at CNN is the one bright spot over on that struggling network, and here he is schooling what could only be called a liberal weenie when this weenie tells Scott Jennings that you can't call those who enter the country illegal aliens anymore. You must stop now. This is the way Jennings responded. Cut 1, go.
The percentage?
Who are you to tell me what I can and can't? I've never met you, brother. I can say whatever I want. They're illegal aliens, and that's what the law calls them, illegal aliens. That's what I'm going to call them.
Good.
Listen, you can't say illegals anymore because ICE is directly targeting legal citizens of this country. And how
are you going to enforce your edict on me, just out of curiosity?
Listen, I understand.
But just listen to his point about illegal.
No, I want to know why he gets to instruct
You're
my
changing the
students.
topic.
Hang on.
You're making
a point
making an
about
emotional
people being
plea.
arrested.
That's the best. You cannot call them illegal aliens anymore. And Jennings says, how exactly are you going to enforce your edict? In other words, this kid looks like a human broomstick, like he weighs like 120 pounds, and he's never met Scott Jennings before, and he's going to go on there and lecture the one guy who actually gets some clicks and some views from CNN, and Jennings just pushes back perfectly on that, no question about it. Also, this is a great one as well. Not great, it's scary. The View, which falls under, amazingly, ABC's news division, not making that part up. And here is Whoopi Goldberg. Boy, we're a long way from Ghost, aren't we? That movie came out, 36 years ago. Kind of liked it. She was kind of funny in it. Now, here she is, showing that she may be a communist, or at least a fan of communism, when they had on, of course, the ultimate performance artist in Zoran Memdani, the, God, throwing up, I'm just joking on my own. Mayor of New York, sorry, Zoran Memdani. This is Whoopi to Memdani in cut number 12. Go.
I just want to say, listen, if you can do what you say you can do, you will not only remake the city, but you may help remake the nation. So,
what? Oh, right. If he says, if he can do what he says he's going to do, then he's not just going to remake New York City, but the nation, the world, and the galaxy. Let's remember what Memdani has promised, all right? And again, I say let's come back January 20th of 2027 on this very show, and let's go through the list, shall we? Will there be $30 minimum wage in New York City? I'm going to bet no on that one, all right? So we're saving this tape here, Kevin. Mark it down. We'll play it back a year from now. Will there be free busing for all? That will cost well over $1 billion that the city does not have, and Memdani thinks he could tax his way to getting that revenue, except all the rich people, if they haven't left, they are going to leave, and therefore there will not be any tax revenue to tax. Let's see. I'm going to go no on that one as well. All right, how about free child care for all? That is projected to cost anywhere from $6 billion to $10 billion. There's already a huge budget shortfall in this city. Again, where's the money going to come from? Yeah, going with Niet on that one. Going to go a little Russian for the commie there as far as Soviet style. Net means no in Russian. I watched Rocky IV last night. Okay, so on those three big ones right there. Oh, yeah, that's right. Grocery stores run by the city. Okay, if he actually does open these up, will it actually produce goods, products on the shelf that will be cheaper than those sort of supermarkets that are owned privately? I'm going to go with the big N-O on that one as well. All right, so I got no as far as four big promises that Zoran Memdani, the mayor of New York, has promised, and we'll see what Whoopi Goldberg has to say about that a year from now. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is the Joe Concha Show. And finally, President Trump is not happy with Emmanuel Macron. He, of course, is the president of France, and on his way out soon. His approval rating is somewhere near where Brandon Johnson's is in Chicago as far as the mayor of that city, like something like 12, 13%. Even his wife hates him. I mean, things are not going well for Macron. And Trump has established this board of peace, which is a good thing because Trump is the peace president. He's either prevented or stopped at least 8 wars around the world. We have a peace agreement in Gaza, which many people thought could not be done. And Iran, at last check, no longer has any nuclear capabilities thanks to Operation Midnight Hammer, so carried out by the U.S. So here is Trump on Macron and his refusal to join the Board of Peace, and Trump has a little fun with this one, as he always does. This is cut number 8. Go.
Any response to President Macron saying he will not join the Board of Peace?
Oh, did he say that? Well, nobody wants it because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right.
It's like, yeah, well, that's kind of irrelevant because he'll no longer be in power, and that's probably the case. I went to France with the family late August for a work thing, and Paris I visited with my wife in 2009. It's a much different city now. And I didn't say that. My wife said that. She's like, it's just a different vibe here. It doesn't feel very, I don't know, French. And there's a reason for that. When you have mass legal immigration and immigration in general, and you try to combine cultures that really haven't meshed before, you definitely get, to put it generously, as my wife did, a different vibe in a place like Gay Paris. Anyway, this has been the Joe Concha Show. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We're back tomorrow night, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, here on 77 WABC. In the meantime, 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.